All right, recording in progress. So this is picking up where the end of the second part of lecture left off. I was having trouble trying to get Arnold and RenderMan, or actually I should say not RenderMan, I should say Arnold and Maya to cooperate with each other. For whatever reason, bad juju stuck in Maya. Just remember, computers, Maya in general, hate humans. They hate everybody. So what I'm going to do here is just demo the directional light to kind of show you the workflow, and also to kind of point out some things you're going to have to keep in mind as you're working. So first thing is, I'm going to set my project to project 2 right there. Open up my area directional point light scene, which is what you're going to use. And notice there's a separate spotlight scene. All right, so that opens up in the render cam. Now, a lot of times when I'm working, I like to work in perspective, render from the render cam, so I can see where my light is in relationship to my camera and my subject. Can't always do that inside the render cam. It's usually a much closer shot. So first thing you want to do, and let's outline this inside FSO, which I believe I've got set up here. Let me just pull this over from my other monitor real quick. There we go. All right, so project 2. So first thing you want to do, obviously, set your project, which I did. You're going to pick one of the images to do, and I'm going to do the directional light. I'm going to do the top directional light. So want to make sure cast shadows is turned on in your lights. Another thing you want to make sure is that color management is turned on. For all your scenes before you start working on them. And if I could spell, that would be so awesome. There we go. Management is on. All right, make sure it's on. As soon as you open the scene up, then you're going to assign the AI standard surface, turn off specular weight, take the base color value, and turn it to 0.5. Once you do that, then you're going to want to save your scene. So you have all the changes that you made in your scene before anything happens, let's just say. Because after all, it is Maya. It lives and breathes on our tears, our regret, and our frustration. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, let's turn on color management. That's in the Maya preferences. So you can get to Maya prefs in the Maya menu, or you can go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Preferences. So this is scene specific. If you turn it on in this scene and save it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will have color management in any future scene you make or other scenes that you open. So always verify it's turned on. Then hit save. And I'm going to select all my geometry, and I can do that in the outliner. Select the group, which is basically all the blocks and the bowl. Shift select them. Here, marquee select them, doesn't matter. And there's 2 ways you can assign a new AI standard surface. You can right click and hope that you don't have the zoom tools in the way, and go to assign new material, or hold down Shift and the T key, T for tango, Shift T. That will bring up the assign new material dialog. So here, I'm going to go under Arnold. I want AI standard surface, click on that. And now every object has the AI standard surface on it. So It doesn't matter if I select them all or select one object. They all have the same material, which is AI standard surface. So I can change my settings here and don't have to worry about it being different on other objects. They all have this AI standard surface. So turn off spec weight. Under base color, go to value. And the value is at 0.8. We want to make it 0.5, which is 50% gray. And I can hit shade it mode in here if I want to. And you'll notice that we've got single-sided turned on. So the camera can look through the bowl, but all the objects in the bowl can't see the camera looking at it. Ooh, scary. All right. So now this is a good time to save. So I'm going to save as Arnold. Let's go 2021-04. There we go. So I've got color management turned on. I've got the AI standard surface assigned and changed. And it's all set up on everything. So now let's go open up Arnold. There we go. And look at that. It cooperated. So first thing I like to do is let's bring in the reference. So in the Arnold render view, go File, Open Image, very similar to what you guys did. Actually, it's exactly like what you guys did inside Project 1. I'm going to go to the directional light, and there's my top reference. And let's open that up. Now, if you forget to check color management, this is going to come in much darker and much more, for want of a better word, disgusting looking. It will not look accurate. So first thing, this is a directional light. Light direction, top. My shadows are sitting very neatly under my objects. So create a Maya directional light, which is under Create, Lights, Directional Light. And don't forget that by default, it will drop in at the center of the world. And remember, translation for this light doesn't really matter. Now, to view your snapshot, click on it. Notice the top and bottom turn blue. That tells you you are viewing the image. You're not viewing a render or your actual render view. So before you can render, you got to be out of looking at a snapshot. Notice the render button's grayed out. So now I can hit render, and I got a little bit of light kind of leaking through. But remember, this is like the sun, parallel light rays, big wall of light coming from whatever direction our arrows are pointed. And we want our light to be pointed down on our objects. So doesn't matter where I translate this light is all about rotation. Now, you'll notice that I am not in the correct render cam. So to change cameras in the Arnold render view, I can just come in here, do that. Now I'm in the render view. All right, so let's make this so the shadows sit underneath the objects. A little bit more, maybe. So it looks like it's underneath in the center block, but look at the pegs. So I'm looking, and you can see there's a little bit of wobble here in my image, which means I still need to tuck it under just a touch more. There we go. That looks much better. So light direction. Let's go with light intensity. Looks like it could be a bit brighter. Kind of hard to tell when you've got a bright color also, but let's just give it a shot. So this light is super intense. It's like the sun. So, I know I said in lecture, the first part or the first couple of parts, I usually start my demo at like 100, but not with the sun, because that's what you'll get. Polar bear in a snowstorm. You can see that's way too bright. So for this directional light, I would recommend you maybe go up to 2, maybe, 1.5, maybe 2. You can see what it looks like. So light direction, light intensity, sort of. Let's see if we can get the color in there, and then we can determine whether it needs to be brighter or not. All right, so color for this light is going to be here in the color swatch of the directional light. And I know I also said that in the directional light, you usually want to set your angle at like 0.5. Now, for the light being directly overhead, that's not really going to have much of an effect. But if the light were to be lower and the edges would be a little bit softer, that's what you would do. 0.5 is a good angle of softness for the sun. It sort of matches our sun in the real world. All right, so change the color. Well, that's kind of looking reddy pinky. So red, desaturated. Nah, I'm not feeling that. So maybe magenta looking right here. Let's desaturate that and see what we have. All right, so that's a little bit closer, that color. So I didn't think it was actual downright purple. I know it's not orange. I know it's not yellow. Looks like the light could be a little bit brighter. And it looks like my color, now the intensity is not bad. The color could be a little more saturated. So maybe crank it up a little bit more. Well, you know what? Instead of guessing, let's try 0.25. I like to go in little increments. Could be a little bit more. That's pretty close. Looks like the intensity could be a little bit brighter. All right, so it seems to be matching pretty well. So we've got light direction, light intensity, light color, and the shadow quality. We've given our shadows that 0.5 angle of the sun. They look like they match the reference pretty well. So I think I'm probably ready to kick off a final render. And remember, for your final render, you want to compare it to the reference and see. All right, so why is that in there? There we go. I'm actually rendering with Arnold, but it's so weird that Maya let me render in Arnold. Anyway, make sure your renderer is set to Arnold, which actually, since I hit the render button inside the Arnold render view, it did, but my render settings didn't reflect it. So this is where you would give it, production quality settings. Your job is to match the quality or exceed the quality of the reference. All right, so this is, I'm just going to give it, that's kind of preview. Let's go with a little bit more quality there. See what that looks like. So you'll notice it still renders fairly quickly. You can tell there's aliasing on the side here. And when it's all done rendering, that aliasing should clean up. Right here, all those little jaggies. All right, so cleaned it up nicely. So when I'm ready to do a full-blown final render, what I want to do is I'm going to turn on my post imager, the denoiser, noise. I can think of his key and peel when I say that. Anyway, so once I've done that, I'm going to hit the render button out here. So when it's done rendering, it will actually stop. And it will also denoise any of that subtle noise that we might have on the wall or anywhere where it's got some indirect light. You know, noise likes to hide in these little shadowy areas here. So once this is done, I can call it finished and, you know, move on to the next light. And actually, you probably should start with the rectangle light and then do this light, but it doesn't really matter. The only one I would say is do the area light, the directional light, the point light first before tackling the spotlight. All right, so it finished rendering, it denoised. Now I'm good to save it. Directional light top, hit save. Go into my project folder. Images, there's my EXR, and now I can pop it in my template. So for the template, just like with project 1, we have a separate template for each of the lights. You just pick the correct reference. For example, the one that's visible here is the top light, but if you're doing the front, you want to use that reference. Now, to bring my image in, it's simple. I'm going to open it in Photoshop. It's inside my images folder. Don't forget OpenEXR options. You want alpha channel data as alpha channel. You want to select all, copy. Once you've copied it, you can actually close it. And now I'm going to select the layer I want it to paste in front of, which is the top. So I'm going to hit paste. And now I can move this around. I can put this below, right where it belongs. Don't forget to zoom in a little bit as you're working to get rid of those kind of sloppy border edges there. And you can use the nudge keys, which are your directional arrows in Photoshop. Grab your render time, your intensity for the light, and plug in your, camera AA, diffuse samples, and whatever else you did. And then save it as a target. Go File, Save As, change the format to Targa. Okay, in Targa options, make sure it's 24-bit. We don't need 32 because we don't have an alpha channel. and you should be good to go. Save your template if you want, but there is the target, all set to go. All right, does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about the workflow? So Brianna, Chanel, Clifton, Frenzy, Joni, Kentavious, Marie, anybody have any questions? Clifton's good. Thank you, Clifton. Marie's good. Thank you. Frenzy's good. Chanel, you making out all right? Brianna, Kentavious thinks he has everything. Awesome. Like I said, I am recording this. So Chanel, Brianna, you guys have any questions? All right. So looks like everybody's good to go, and pretty much, you know, the other three lights should go the same way. We kind of talked about the approach for the spotlight. And anybody has any questions, Frank will be here. Frank, I'm going to end the session so I can archive this out and upload it. You want to add anything, Frank?
Negative, just double checking. Do I have to wait until you archive before I can restart? Can I immediately reinitiate it one different way?
No, you should, as soon as I end the session, and it's because I'm recording this on my computer.
Okay.
So as soon as I end the session, it should kick off and you should be able to just jump right in and start up again.
Funny, we'll do.
All right. And if you have any issues, let me know. All right, everybody. I will see you guys virtually on Friday. Remember, no campus lecture Friday. We will be doing the same time, but we'll just be doing a Zoom lecture. All right. So have a good night. Frank, I'll leave it in your capable hands. And Frank will restart the meeting momentarily.
See you in about a minute.